Hollywood usually gives us the cinematic slasher, loud, erratic, and obviously dangerous. Real-world predation is much harder to spot because it hides behind a smile that only slips away when you're no longer looking. A true psychopath lives within an internal emotional void. They move through the world without the internal friction of guilt or the warmth of connection. We can think of this as the hollow man. The exterior is indistinguishable from any other person, but the fundamental wiring for human empathy is simply missing. Because they look and act like us, our only defense is learning to recognize the mechanics of the mask before it is too late. Rahul grew up in a world he didn't quite participate in. While other children played, he studied them, learning the patterns of a society he didn't naturally feel a part of. When his peers found a wounded animal, the air was thick with panic and distress. Rahul just stood there. He stared blankly at the creature's pain, experiencing no surge of adrenaline or urge to help. This lack of a pain response is a characteristic marker of the disorder. It points to a neurological indifference that makes it impossible for them to process the suffering of others as a negative experience. This early apathy forms the framework for the behaviors that follow, establishing a person who can observe harm without ever feeling its weight. By his teenage years, Rahul understood he was an outsider. To navigate social life, he began a period of intense mimicry, treating human interaction like a foreign language he had to master. He practiced the mechanics of charm, the specific way a person tilts their head to show interest, or the exact tone of voice that signals sincerity. He was building a persona designed to be trusted. For a psychopath, a friend is an asset. They view social circles as a collection of tools, curated and maintained until they are needed for a specific purpose. High school became his laboratory. Every interaction was a test of how effectively he could manipulate an environment without anyone suspecting his motives. When Rahul met Neha, he began a process of isolation. He focused his entire attention on her, creating a sense of exclusivity that made her feel like the only person in his world. He used phrases like, "I've never met anyone I can truly talk to until now." This manufactured bond creates an immediate sense of obligation and deep, unearned trust. This pattern follows a specific logic. Affection builds dependency, which funnels toward control. The victim's empathy drives the process. Affection is replaced by demands. Every request becomes a test of loyalty, framed with, "If you cared about me, you would do this." Neha believed she was in a deep romance, but she was actually being enclosed within a relationship where her feelings were merely leverage. The shift happened the first time Neha said no. She set a boundary, and for the first time, Rahul lost his grip on the narrative. The transformation was jarring. The charming partner vanished, replaced by someone coldly detached and visibly frustrated by her defiance. He dismissed her instantly, calling her useless and just like the rest. The person she thought she knew simply ceased to exist. This reaction wasn't fueled by a broken heart. It was the irritation of an operator dealing with a piece of equipment that had stopped following instructions. This moment reveals the true nature of the hollow man. He wasn't losing a partner, he was losing a source of power. As the relationship fractured, Rahul's behavior escalated. He relied on small, constant lies and emotional pressure to keep Neha off balance. His primary motivation was the sense of power that comes from dictating someone else's reality. This radar chart illustrates the internal metrics. While a normal profile shows high levels of empathy and guilt, the psychopath profile reveals those traits are entirely flat, replaced by a high capacity for performative emotion. Without the internal mechanisms for remorse, there is no bottom to their behavior. They are immune to the emotional appeals that would stop a typical person. You cannot appeal to a conscience that does not exist. Their internal world is a room with the lights turned off. In Rahul's story, his inability to maintain his persona eventually led to his social circle withdrawing. People began to notice the inconsistencies, and the trust he had manufactured started to dissolve. Even when left alone, Rahul felt neither lonely nor sad. He simply waited for the next opportunity to begin the process with someone new. To protect yourself, stay alert for these 3 patterns: a relationship that moves too fast, using your own guilt against you, and a refusal to admit mistakes. Recognizing these tactical signs is your only real defense. You cannot fix an emotional void. You can only learn to walk away from it.